Hi, everyone. Welcome back to the Fearless and Fabulous podcast. This is the space where we empower women to thrive no matter their age or size. I am your host and creator, Melanie Robinson. I am the reigning Miss Voluptuous Gulf Coast. And today I am so happy to have another queen with me. And I've met her through our mutual coach. And we have been prepping like crazy because it is pageant season. And I want everyone to meet the wonderful Bianca. Hey, Bianca, how are you doing?
I'm good, Melanie. Thank you so much for having me today. I'm so excited to chat with you.
Well, I'm so glad you can join me because I know you are a very busy woman, besides getting ready for your pageant, which we'll talk about, but you have a very full life. And let's just go ahead and start things off. Can you tell us about a little bit about you? And I was mentioning earlier that I am not going to try and butcher your last name. I want you to say it. So it sounds wonderful.
Yes, so my name is Bianca Xoyamayagua-Galvan. I always say that really slow so people can catch it, and it starts with an X. So I think that's what throws everybody off. It's like, oh my gosh, it looks way more daunting than it is, but it's really not that bad. But my name is Bianca Xoyamayagua-Galvan, and I live in Austin, Texas. I grew up in Austin, Texas, but my family actually comes from Kashmir, Iran, and Suriname.
Oh,
So mixed background. And I live here with my husband. We've been married 12 years. We have 3 kids. I have a 9-year-old son, an 11-year-old daughter, and a 22-year-old daughter. So a little bit of an age gap there.
wow.
Yes, but they're so much fun. They keep me on my toes for sure. I work for the city of Austin. I work for the airport here, so that is also extremely busy and dynamic job. I'm the guest services manager there, and I've been working for the city of Austin for 11 years. I'm very involved in my community. I love to volunteer and give back. I'm very passionate about mentoring. That's
Mm.
something I've actually been doing for the past 25 years. I started off volunteering as a mentor, and then I actually became more of an advocate for mentoring, actually because of pageantry when I started pageantry in 2018. And I've been doing pageantry now for, what is that, 6 years, and I absolutely love it. I really enjoy it, and I've had both my daughters do pageantry. I'm trying to talk my son into it, but so far he's not going for that. But I'm so hopeful. I would love for him to do a pageant. I'm like, it's a family affair. We got to get everybody involved. So that's a little bit about me. And yes, I keep very busy with work, volunteer activities, taking my kids around, prepping for my pageant, which is coming up in July. I'm going to be competing at World Imperials Beauty, representing Miss Lone Star State, and my daughter will be representing Miss Preteen Texas.
Oh my goodness. So it truly is a family affair. So exciting. And since we're on the subject of pageantry and a couple of your children are involved in it, tell me, something that you have found to be rewarding about it. Because, before you and I started recording, I mentioned that I think there is a lot of preconceived notions about younger kids in pageantry, moms and kids doing pageants together, that it can sometimes have a negative connotation. So tell us a bit about what your experience has been so far and what maybe, has been a positive out of it.
For the most part, I've had a really positive experience. The reason I got involved in pageantry was my daughter was Miss Juneteenth Central Texas, and she competed in the Miss Juneteenth pageant 2 years in a row. And then the second year, she won the Miss Juneteenth Central Texas title. And I had such a great experience with that. That was my first exposure to pageantry. I mean, I had seen it on TV, like the Miss Universe, and I always loved like Miss Universe, and my mom and I would watch it, but it never occurred to me to like do pageants. But when I
Mm.
saw that, I was like, oh, I want my daughter to enter. And really, it was more like an opportunity for her to learn about her heritage, because she's part Black, and I really wanted her to, understand about Juneteenth and really celebrate that she's Black and she's beautiful. And so that's why we joined it. And I had such an amazing experience. The organizers were awesome, and it was such a developmental opportunity for the girls. And I just really saw them flourish,
Yeah.
and it was awesome. And I was like, this is great. And then a few years later, I said, you know what, I'm going to do a pageant. And I think it was like a year of my life where I had gone out with some friends for Christmas, and we were, just hanging out and talking, and we were all like, what did we do over the year? And I really couldn't think of anything like particularly exciting that I had done. I was like, I felt like I hadn't really done anything, and I was like, you know
Mm.
what? Next year is going to be my year. Next year I'm going to take risks. I'm going to do different things. I'm just going to try out whatever it is that I want to do. And I was like, one of those things was a pageant. And I entered the pageant, and I actually won that first pageant that I entered.
Oh, awesome.
Miss United America Petite, and that was awesome. And then I said, I want my daughter to do it, my younger daughter, who is now 11 years old as well. Because she's kind of reserved herself, and I wanted her to build that confidence and her public speaking skills and
Mhm.
just really step out of her shell. And she did a pageant, 20, was it we're in 2024. It was actually beginning of 2023. She did the United Ambassador pageant, or USA Ambassador pageant, excuse me. And I was so proud of her. She did not place, but she was the youngest in her category because she had to compete in the higher category.
Mm.
And she did a monologue in front of everybody, and she did so good. They had on stage chat, which, is nerve wracking for adults
Oh,
to have to use
yeah.
stage question. And there she was, sitting on stage, having to do an on stage chat and interview in front of everybody. And she did so great. And she just looked so elegant. And I was so proud of her. And it was just such a great experience. So overall, I've just had such a great positive experience, like the growth that you can get out of pageantry. And
Hmm.
I know there's a lot of negative associated with it. And I hate that. Like I
Yeah.
cringe every time I see all of this scandal and, all these negative things, because especially for the biggest brands that people know about pageantry,
Right.
right? Like when you see Miss USA and Miss Universe, that's what people associate with pageantry. And so when I see that
Exactly.
happen within those organizations that are so representative of the industry, it's just really disheartening because there's so many amazing systems out there that are actually empowering women.
And I think that's a really great point you make because unfortunately, most people, the layperson, you say Miss USA or Miss Universe, they kind of know what that is. They've seen it
Mhm.
around. And when there is negative press about it, that's kind of their perspective of what all pageants must be like. And it's unfortunate because when things like that happen, I think it hurts pageantry as a whole. Like the other systems kind of get lumped into that whole perception. And I'm really glad that I'm having you as well as I've had some other queens on my podcast because we can talk about the positives we get out of it. And of course, there's some negatives with it. I mean, I think that's true of anything though. If it's
Mhm.
sports, entertainment, and there's always gonna be something. But I totally agree with you. Like I didn't really get into passions until I turned 50, and I can tell that my mindset is so much stronger than it used to be, and I'm much more about what more can I do to make something better.
Mhm.
It's so less about me, it's more about what we can do. And I know with your platform with mentoring, uh, can you tell us how that came about? Because I know a little bit about your story, but I
Mhm.
think it's very important that our listeners hear about your how you got to end up being thriving, since we're talking about a place for people to thrive. So tell us a bit about how mentoring became your passion.
So there's two reasons really. So my mom was actually a teacher in the public school system, and when I grew up, she was a single mother at the time, so I would go to school with her all of the time. So I was there like after school. I was always seeing my mom, and at that time they used to have to do home visits
Mm.
to the parents, and so I would go with her and we would visit, and I saw firsthand like how the some of the situations that children were living in, parents that were just struggling to make ends meet, working 3, 4 jobs, and just not being able to be there for the kids, even if they wanted to. And so I really saw how important it was to have caring adults in their lives, like teachers, like mentors. And so I knew, from a young age, I was doing like different mentoring activities, like PALS was a program that we had at our high school. So I was really involved with it in that way. And then also, I needed mentorship when I was growing up as well. So I became pregnant at a fairly young age. It's 20, which doesn't sound like super young, but I had just, graduated college. I was a
Yeah.
freshman. Excuse me, I had just graduated high school and I was a freshman in college when I got pregnant. So it was my first year. I was still trying to, find myself and become an adult. And I found myself pregnant, and that was just such a difficult time for me personally. I struggled like financially and mentally, and just in my relationships. It was really hard, and so it was just a very trying time for me. And I was had my daughter. I actually, I'm sorry, I dropped out of school. I was going to school and I dropped out because it just became
Mhm.
overwhelming and it became too much. But once I had my daughter, I realized I want to go back to school. I want to finish my education. I want to do what I originally set out to do, with my dreams, my purpose, my goals. So I enrolled back in school. So even though I had a young, infant daughter, I was going to school full time. I was working two jobs. I didn't have a car at the time, so I was taking the bus to, drop my daughter off at the daycare and then going to work and then taking the bus back and it was a very challenging time for me.
I'm tired just hearing about it. Oh my gosh. That
But
that
what
it's different though when you're 20, it's hard, but you have the energy to get through it. I can't imagine doing that at my age right now, and I'm sure you can't either.
and I'm tired right now with three. I'm like three kids. When I find people that are like, I have five kids, I have seven kids, I'm like, oh my gosh, how do you do it? Uh, but yes, I mean, but that experience really taught me like how important it was to have community around you, to have
Mhm.
mentors that were there to support you and encourage you, because I needed that at that time in my life. I really needed that. And I'm happy to say that I was able to graduate. I finished my degree and I actually finished with honors. So all those classes that I dropped, I retook, I re-enrolled, and I graduated with honors, and my daughter was right there with me. And so that's my most treasured, memory, is that my daughter was there when I graduated and I finished my education. And that really taught me the importance of like having a strong work ethic. And
Mhm.
that's something I carry with me today, and just being persistent and knowing that, no matter what those circumstances are that you face or that I faced at that time, like that didn't define the opportunity that I had ahead of me.
That's such an inspiring, amazing story, Bianca. Like I said, when you're 20, yes, you're technically an adult, but oh my goodness, you have so much you're still trying to figure out. And to, have an infant and, working, and then you're like deciding, I gotta go back and finish my education. Like, that's such a testament to you to figure out that you deserved more in your life and your daughter deserved more too, and making those sacrifices to make that happen is such a powerful story. But that was the seed of creating mentorship. So now that you are a pageant queen, how are you putting those plans into motion?
So as I said, because of pageantry is what actually, kind of spurred me to become more of an advocate, right? So I'd been volunteering since I was in college, like formally volunteering as a mentor since I was in college. And I've mentored college age students, I've mentored elementary age students, and even first time young mothers as well, because of the experience I went through. But my passion is really like for youth mentoring, because I have three kids and I just really want to see our youth become successful. And I think mentorship is so critical. So some of the things that I've done is I recently did in January a national mentoring campaign where I highlighted different individuals that were either mentors or received mentorship and how that impacted their life. And we reached over 3,000 people and had four different countries represented from our participants as well. I was able to go to Capitol Hill in DC and advocate for mentoring legislation and funding, which is absolutely
Wow.
amazing. And next, I'm trying to plan a fashion show. I know you're also trying to plan a fashion show, so we need to get together and brainstorm together. But I
Yeah.
want to plan fundraising fashion show for mentors and mentees to be featured as well. Um, and then, of course, I volunteer on a regular basis. So my current mentee and we started together when she was in third grade, and she just finished her 11th grade year,
Mm,
and she will be graduating next year. So hopefully, if all goes well, I'll be her mentor again next year, and I'll be able to see her graduate, which I'm so
that's
excited
so
about.
amazing. And I think sometimes it's easy for people to get tunnel vision and they think, "Oh, I don't have the time to volunteer or to be a mentor." And what would you say to someone who maybe they sound interested in it, but they don't feel they can pull it off? What's your advice? How could they pull it off?
Well, I think, there's so many different ways that you can be a mentor. So depending on like what your time commitment is, there is something out there that will fit what that time commitment is. So, I do school-based mentoring. So that means I meet my mentee once a week for lunch, and her lunch is 40 minutes. And you can find a school in your area so you don't have a lot of drive time. And, it's 1 hour out of your lunch. A lot of us go to lunch for 1 hour to, meet a friend for lunch or go run an
Right.
errand. So I think it's as simple as that. And it's something that makes you feel so good. That's like the highlight of my week is like I'm crazy busy at work, but I put that appointment on my calendar and I know like, okay, it's just like any other appointment. I'm going to be there for that hour. That's our time together. And I just feel so good. Like after, we talk and we hang out, we just play games. Like it's just so enjoyable. And then there's opportunities like big brothers, big sisters, where if you have more time commitment, then you can be a friend year round, right? You're a
Yeah.
big and you're little, and y'all can go on different excursions together on the weekends. So there's just so many ways that you can get involved with mentoring. It doesn't have to be something that's so like you feel like, oh my gosh, this is so daunting and it's a time
Right.
commitment. But I will say there is the commitment of usually when you become a mentor that you are going to do it for at least 6 months or to a year, depending on what the program is, right? Because the purpose of a strong mentorship is that you are providing that consistency to a child and you're not just like coming in and out. They know there's going to be this set period of time that you're going to provide that mentorship.
Exactly. And I think that helps your mentee to build that consistency herself.
And that trust and that relationship there too.
Exactly. So I want to back up a little bit when uh, your daughter started pageants and then you decided you wanted to do it. What types of, did you have any hesitations or fears that you had to break through in order for you to be in pageants?
Oh, definitely. I mean, I'd never done anything where I was like on stage, I wasn't like in um any kind of extracurricular activity. Well, actually, I take that back. I was in theater back when I was
Okay.
in middle school, but I think I was in like two plays, but I didn't even think about that till we just had this conversation. But I would not say that prepared me for pageantry at all. uh, but I definitely had fears, I was like, oh my gosh, what if I don't know how to model. I don't know how to, I don't have a talent. And I think everybody that thinks of pageantry, like that's the first question I always get. It's like, what is your talent? And I'm like, thank goodness most pageants talent is optional. Like that's not required, y'all.
Yeah, I think the one that talent is required is Miss America.
Yes,
I think
exactly.
it's been optional for everything else.
Yes. So definitely had those fears as far as like I'm not gonna know what to do. Am I just gonna be like so nervous? And I do, like I still get nervous when I get on stage, you get those butterflies and have those fears. But I think that was my main fear was like just not knowing that I was going to 100% know what to do. Like I wanted to
Mm,
have, I'm a perfectionist by nature. That's my nature is like, I want to do things right. And so, I was just unsure that I was going to be able to do that on the pageant stage because it was my first time. I didn't have any
yeah.
experience. So I think that was my biggest fear.
So with you saying that you're a perfectionist, how did you manage that perfectionism when you're trying something new, like doing a pageant? Like how did you manage those expectations? Because I know that I can be perfectionist in some areas of my life where I have to step back and remind myself, okay, it's fine. I'm not going to have it perfect the first time. What was your journey with that?
Hmm. Yeah, I think for me, like I like to be as prepared as possible. So I didn't have a coach or anything my first pageant. I just everything I did was like online, right? That's probably what a lot
Hmm.
of people do, like the first time they do a pageant, right? Like I went and I found all the YouTube videos.
Yep.
I was on Pageant Planet and, getting all of their like checklists and things that you needed to do and, trying to do as much research as possible to like prepare myself and like know what to expect. So I think there was
Yeah.
that aspect. But then you're right. At some point, you just have to step back. And I was like, you know what? I just need to show up as myself, do the best that I can, and that's gonna be good enough, you know, um, because you're not going to know how to do everything perfectly, right? And is there
Right.
truly a perfect way to do something? No. So there isn't. But I think that's what I had to do is just like, okay, just take a step back, like you said, and just really just go in there and just have fun. Like,
Right.
let's have a good time and enjoy it. This is supposed to be a fun experience, right? It's not supposed to be, especially because this was my first one and that was my goal, was just like try something new, get out of my comfort zone and push myself. So that's how I kind of dealt with it.
And I think that's so important to remember is that's part of life is to step out of your comfort zone, to try something new. It's part of stretching yourself as a person. And I know with that, comes a lot of doubts and fears and second guessing. And I'd even find myself, even though I have a background in theater as well, like I worked professionally for a number of years, that sometimes I still find myself doubting, like, oh, well, should I audition for this thing? Or I'm not going to be right for it. I have found that if I don't at least try, then I'm just going to create this self-fulfilling prophecy that I'm not growing myself.
Mhm.
Is that something that you try to do in your life?
Oh, definitely. Yeah. I feel like the times where I have not gone after something that I wanted to, you regret it later,
Hmm.
right? You just have those regrets and I don't like having those regrets. And so then later you're like, oh, I should have done that. And the opportunity has already passed by. Right. So I think like that's the key is not doubting ourselves, or even if we're doubting ourselves, it's like, okay, we're going to take that leap of faith and
Yeah.
just do it. Something my degree was in marketing, and I also got a certification in meeting and events planning. So a lot of my career has been around meeting and events planning. And I wanted to take this CMP, this professional certification, which is a certified meeting planner. And I thought about it for years and I would have it on my like um to do not my to-do list, my New Year's resolution list like
Yeah.
every year. And I just finally last year applied for the exam and then got the approval to take the exam at the beginning of this year. So I'm going to be taking it in July. But I'm like, why did it take me, I've been in this industry now for 20 years. Why did it take me 20 years to do
Mm.
that? And I think part of it is because I was scared, right? Like
Hmm.
maybe I was scared like I wasn't going to pass the test or I didn't have enough experience and I was questioning myself. And so, that is my one regret is like, why did I take so long to do this? And I'm happy now that I'm doing it, but I think that's the important thing is like just taking that leap of faith, even when we're scared, so we don't have any regrets.
Exactly. And one of the things that I've learned in my life is that there's never going to be a good time, so to speak, to do something. There's always going to be something that's going to create a really good excuse not to do
Mhm.
it. And I have found that, especially with me doing pageants, that if I don't do this now, I don't want to be 70 years old and looking back and going, well, shoot, I should have just gone for it then. Was in good because the thing is, we don't know what's going to happen tomorrow. I
Exactly.
mean, life can change in an instant. And I think, especially, in your case, you had this to-do list thing of I need to get the certification. And now you're like, okay, well, now I'm doing it. Why'd I take so long?
Yep.
Yeah. And it just comes down to, that silly thing, fear, that inner saboteur in our ear telling us, well, you got this going on. What if I don't pass? What if this happens? It's that scary what if that always gets in the way. Uh, and I think that's something our listeners, should take to heart that yes, you might fail. It might not work out, but the thing is, what did you learn from it? And what can you do next time to make it more of a success for yourself?
Yes, absolutely. And that's something like why I love like mentoring youth too, is because I want them to know that, right? Like take risk. This is the
Hmm.
time you are young and you have these opportunities, or take advantage of that, right? Don't be afraid to put yourself out there. Don't be afraid to fail, because that's what makes us stronger, right? That's what those lessons and challenges are, what make us who we are, and make us tougher and stronger and able to do more things and leave that fear behind the more that we do that.
Amen to that, girl. Love that. So, since we talked about breaking through the fear, what makes Bianca feel fabulous?
Well, I love wearing heels, so I'm gonna say that that's number one. Though that has been a challenge trying to wear heels working at the airport these days. um, but I love to wear heels. I'm a kind of person that dresses up every day, so I always tell people like you can't be overdressed; you can only be underdressed. So I don't.
Hmm.
I love to dress up. I also love working out. That really just makes me feel strong, like I have energy. I can definitely tell when I haven't worked out, I feel more sluggish, and
Yes, me
you don't
too.
have that energy exactly. And it also like propels you. Like I'm like, okay, I just worked out, I'm gonna eat healthy, like you're more inclined to take care of yourself, I feel. And then I also need the energy to keep up with my kids. So that
Yes. You got a busy crew and you need that energy.
yes. So those are the kind of things. And then also just taking, a breath and just sitting down. I love to sit on my patio and drink a cup of coffee or drink a cup of wine, just enjoy the outdoors, read a book with my kids, just sitting there. And like that's kind of like my calming place. Is I have this little
Mm.
chair that I actually had bought for my husband, but it's become my chair now because it reclines. And so I just I just sit on
Yeah,
that
I'm
chair and
guilty too. I
relax.
tend to buy things like, oh, he'll like this. And sooner or later, it's like, it's become my thing.
Exactly. Yes. So I think those are the kind of things that just make me feel good. Like I'm generally an optimistic person. I'm a happy person. I like to live life to the fullest. And like you said, you don't know that tomorrow is not promised. And so
Right.
I try to enjoy every day. I try to wake up with a positive attitude and be happy, and spread that to the people around me too.
Love it. Love it. Preach, preach. Well, Bianca, we are unfortunately running out of time. I feel like I could just talk to you for at least another full hour. You are just a ray of sunshine. But before I let you go, of course, we'll link your socials, but where can we find you and follow your journey?
Yes, you can find me on Instagram. I'm also on Facebook. You have to look up my very long last name. So it's Bianca Xoyamayagua-Galvan. So you probably are
I
not
will
going to
have that
tag it, but
linked.
you'll tag it. Yes. But as soon as you start typing in Bianca and XOY, it's going to pop up. There's not any more Xoyamayaguas, I guarantee it. But yes, definitely, I would love for you to follow me and follow my journey in pageantry and public service. And I just want to thank you so much for having me here, Melanie. You also are just such a ray of sunshine. And I've really just enjoyed the time that we've had together, like in our coaching sessions, because you always just come on with such an amazing light and energy.
Oh
So
my
thank you.
gosh. Well, thank you. Thank you so much. And I really appreciate you coming on here and sharing your story. I know it's going to inspire so many women, especially maybe the younger women who were in that situation that you found yourself in years ago, and they know that they can see you, that you've done it, and they can do it too.
Thank you, Melanie.
Thank you. And that's it for this episode, the Fearless and Fabulous podcast. Please make sure to like, comment, subscribe, share this episode with a friend, and I will see you all soon.